My name is Darren Joseph from Welcome to Tax, of the firm where we seek to demystify this somewhat confusing world of international tax and compliance. Today, we're going to do it a bit differently. Rather than just talk tax, we have the opportunity and the privilege to have a conversation with Mick, a friend. He's not a client, a friend who does live that international lifestyle. Mick, do you want to say a few words, introduce yourself to those who may be listening and watching?
Well, thank you. I don't think it's a privilege you having me. I think it's the other way around. But I'm flattered, so thank you very much. So I'm Mick Newman. I know this gentleman for, I think, the better part of 25 years, and we've been on a hell of a journey together. I live a sort of semi-nomadic lifestyle, I believe, in the sense that I split my time evenly between the Caribbean and the UK. Sort of every 5 to 6 weeks, I'm back and forth. And this presents some interesting, revelations about lifestyle and the realities of doing business and having multi-jurisdictional clients, which is something that Darren has lived for the past, I believe, 15 to 20 years. And I've been sort of living it, but it's been more amplified since post-COVID.
Mick is, let me put it this way, he's an Oxford-educated entrepreneur, international consultant. Of course, I don't want to get into specifics of what you do because, of course, your clients are quite confidential. But I think that creates context as to who you are and the breadth of experience and competence you bring to a conversation and a consideration like this. So, from what we've discussed so far, we spoke about the appeals and some of the challenges of being based in the Caribbean. Clearly, no one place is for everyone. So, what do you think is the type of personality that would not enjoy being based, or at least partially based, spending time in the Caribbean like you do?
Very good question. Well, obviously, I'm seeing it with through my own eyes. I think you generally must have slightly more extroverted personality. Because when you go to places like the Caribbean, people are very friendly. And as I said, everything's relationship based. So you need to go out there and you need to, as I say, line with people and have a drink and have dinner. And, they invite you home and you must go and share. The culture evolved like that. Real melting pot society. So I think slightly more gregarious, more extroverted personality. I think you must be quite adaptable. Because if you move from an industrialized, structured society to a more fluid, emerging one, there might be some little reality checks around how you operate on a day-to-day basis, right? In terms of safety, in terms of, infrastructure. I mean, for little things, little hygiene factors like, electricity there might be power outages in an emerging market more frequently. The roads, like you said, if there are heavy rains, there might be flooding in parts of the country, right? So you wouldn't have access to certain parts of the country and things kind of shut down roadways and access ways tend to go on pause until everything dissipates. You have reality of things like, this is a funny one, but, on the, different types of flora and fauna. So on the back staircase of my flat one day, there was a 5.5-foot boa constrictor on the a snake on the veranda, right? Now, I personally like snakes, right? Yeah. But you can imagine the uproar that happened with all my neighbors and stuff when there was this snake on the back, right? Yeah. So different types of flora and fauna. If you're in Britain, you have things like, you'd have spiders and the sorts of things. Out there, you'd have centipedes, you'd have scorpions, you would have snakes, you would have, and now there are tapirs or capybaras, coming across from Brazil, there's some pretty big snakes in some parts of Trinidad. You have anacondas and boa constrictors that can grow up to about, 20 feet long. So it's a different, but then that's a charm. So a lot of people like the fact that you can go, you can go see the scarlet ibis, you can go see the flamingos, it's a different ecosystem that you're going to, right? Which for some people is a bit of a challenge. Then there are, it is a very multicultural society. So whereas although Britain's multicultural, people tend to be a bit more in silos, depending on, especially from a religious perspective. Trinidad's a very tolerant society. I think one of the most tolerant societies in the world, because you have every major religion in there, and everybody celebrates everybody's seasons and festivals, right? Which is an absolutely amazing thing to be part of and to witness, right? So there's a lot of tolerance there. The other bit is that there seems to be a movement, right, that's happening. And, geopolitically, Trinidad's in an interesting place because it's an ex-British colony. So the infrastructure, the fiscal and monetary system, the political system, the education system are all British, still very British. But it's an Uncle Sam's front lawn. So there is a heavy influence of Uncle Sam culturally, right, within society. So what you have is this interesting mix of ideologies between those that are still very much aligned or I suppose more anglicized in the way they think and act versus those that are more Americanized. Now, Britain and America were best friends, so there's the Atlanticism that exists. But where do you see it manifest in a small, relatively wealthy society? Is an interesting thing to watch, right? Because, when you get into conversation around nation building and you get into conversation around policy, particularly, you have some challenges around that. And that also is amplified by the fact that Trinidad historically has been the base, the base since World War II. Into South America. And of course, what's happening with Venezuela and the sort of challenges that Venezuela is facing. So you have Trinidad to the north, you have Guyana to one side, and then Colombia to the other. So there is the geopolitics of being in a place like this. And I witnessed this when, there was, a few years ago when the Iranian warships and Russian planes were landing and the uproar that happened, right? When the US ambassador had to sort of, have a chat with people. You then have, issues around the long-standing relationship between Trinidad and Venezuela. And the fact that Trinidad, it's very difficult for it to pursue JV agreements with companies like PDVSA and others because of, the US's position on Venezuela. So there's the geopolitics that is existing. And then finally, you have this whole very interesting multi-generational dynamic that's taking place, right? So you have the millennials and what do you call them now? Gen Zs, right? That are fast coming through the system. I interact a lot with them in what I do. And they are very different. I think our generation was the last, I would call it analog generation, right? That sort of ushered in the internet age and connectivity and all that stuff. Well, what I see happening now at the younger levels of groupings of society is a lack of belief in the systems that have shaped the way society behaves and the way society acts, right? And that is exacerbated by the fact that there are still many baby boomers who are in their 70s and sometimes 80s that are still running the organizations, the major organizations in CARICOM, right? So you have a challenge around the ability to recruit, motivate, inspire, and deploy young talent. They feel more frustrated, so they're looking for outlets, ways to get out of the region. So that's something I see as a big challenge coming up, especially over the next 5 to 8 years.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty comprehensive, and that just to kind of quickly summarize, many people when they as they go out as an expat or and they spend time in different jurisdictions, they do tend to stay. There's a we like our comfort zone, so you want to stay in your bubble with people who like you, come from a similar background, whereas the real value comes from immersing yourself in the jurisdiction and really getting to know it. And so in terms of the type of personality, I think you definitely, to take advantage of the international experience, you definitely need to be open-minded and relatively outgoing. I mean, it's not that introverted people can't embrace it, but you need to lean into the outgoing side to really see what there is to benefit from. You also mentioned an appreciation of nature, which is of course multifaceted. Of course, you have weather-related incidents like the flooding that you mentioned, and of course, nature. That reminded me, I was in a South American country last month, And on the hotel window, they said, do not sleep with the window open and don't leave it open for extended period of time because animals are going to come inside, monkeys and snakes and whatever. So it's just, part and parcel of life in an emerging market. You have that access to nature, which you need to embrace. And if you don't like nature, probably you want to stay in a concrete jungle. So that's definitely something. And in terms of Trinidad in particular, it's at a crossroads. It's crossroads, as you mentioned, between its UK history, but also the North America and the United States. That's the present. That's the main operating that sphere of influence and all. But having said that, it is close to Venezuela, and therefore it does have that Latin American influence, and it is impacted by events happening. So, for example, the troubles in Venezuela is impacting it. So, just an awareness of the geopolitical, sociocultural issues, and an ability to navigate and to understand and to appreciate and to be sensitive to it. I think will be the kind of things that someone will need to keep in mind as they continue the international journey. Thank you.
So if you're a 6, 7, or 8-figure investor, entrepreneur, or business owner who needs a tailor-made solution from a qualified team of professionals, we can help you achieve the international lifestyle, the freedom, and even the tax savings you're looking for. Visit us at htj.tax and live that international life.